too long didn't read version is that your E0 speed boots, effect hit rate chest, event free cone. Okay. Hey everyone, TimaeuSS, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. So our CM bros have been cooking, and finally we can compare and compile the ultimate guide for Silverwolf thanks to all of the information that has now been released and tested, ranging from all the way to the Eidolon levels and how it impacts Silverwolf's build and team composition to the Lycon choices. And of course, there are multiple videos. We've translated all of them into the Silverwolf wall of text from CN to English, so you can see the effect hit rate, the speed required, and the most importantly, I think it's this, the energy threshold and how it affects the rotation. Alright, so huge shout out to Poke. Mr. Poke has been with us since the Artery Year days. So his channel, of course, is also on YouTube. Go subscribe and check out his videos. He's done awesome work on Honkai Star Rail, as well as some of the older games that we covered as well. So thank you, Mr. Poke. So now, for our Silverwolf, of course, right off the bat, the most important stat for Silverwolf is going to be effect hit rate. Now, let's switch back to my account. So you can see here, I'm in Memory of Chaos. I've cleared everything, perfect star, 3 stars, so 30 star, and I do use Silverwolf as part of my team. So for my Silverwolf, okay, my Silverwolf is E2, and at E1 and E2, big differences. And for E2, reducing the enemy's effect resist has a huge impact on the effect hit rate you'll need. So you can see here for the analysis by CN, it's luckily the very same as the global one, because if it was different, then we're gonna have some issues, okay? And we have to decide and determine which one is more accurate, but it is the same, and I'll break it down to you just in case you don't understand how come the numbers look a bit different. So this is the global one by Vero and AEO. It's looking at E0 and E2 Silverwolf, because remember I said that effect resistance of 20% makes a huge difference. So looking at E0 at Trace level 10, to land the skill you need 97%, and to land the ult you need 67% of effect hit rate. Now for the C analysis, it's exactly the same, 96, which rounds up to 97, and they even say it right here, 30 is rounded up to 31, so it's exact same, 97 and 67. Okay, so for anyone who is less than E2 for Silverwolf, the hit rate recommended is between 67 and 96, depending on how much you care about landing your weakness versus the bug implant, right? But however, if you go back to my own account, right, this is based on trace level 10. For me, even though I've fully cleared, right, I still don't have all of my skills and traces upgraded to level 10. I'm actually level 6. I'm not even in the lowest required amount. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not that you have to hit the number, but it's a very good number to aim to make sure that in the final fight you're landing all the important debuffs on the enemy, because mine definitely has been resisted as well. And the testing is that if your effect hit rate is low, even if you go offensive, you lose out on the damage. And now E2 is going to be a bit different. You can of course have way lower, okay, way lower in terms of the effect hit rate required, which again, like I said, because of the resist down, you can see from 40 to 20, right? It's huge difference. Even if you look at E0, E2, that is 50% difference pretty much in the effect hit rate required. So looking at the Silverwolf kit, in the free event Lycon S5 Super Imposition 5, you're automatically getting a 40% effect hit rate, and that's why the free Lycon does so much damage in terms of the ranking. Okay, this ranking is based on the entire team damage output. Okay, so when you're comparing the base version of the signature 5-star cone to the free Super Imposition 5, the free event Lycon wins out on top. And this is even more true for the E0 Silverwolf, because you're not going to be able to do the 2-turn rotation, which I'll talk about later. So you're stuck in a 3-turn cycle anyways, which means that the energy gain from the free Lycon is much better. So you can see here 40% from Lycon, 18% from Trace, and if you use the 10% hit rate inner 2 pieces that gives you effect hit rate, then you get automatically 68%, which means you're landing all of your resist downs and the ultimate defense downs, basically, right? So you technically don't need anything else, but if you're looking for the implant land for it to land. If you're not looking at trace 10, then you obviously need a effect hit rate chest. Okay, effect hit rate chest is very, very important in that regard. Now, in this analysis, they are saying that if you're E0, you don't have to think about pulling the incessant rain, but I'm going to show you how the incessant rain, and in my case I'm running it, is going to be very, very important. Okay, so before we talk about that, let's talk about speed. Now, we run speed boots on Silverwolf 100%. There's just no argument to run anything else. There is a fine tuning that you can do in the Memory of Chaos. Okay, level 85, the elites are 158 speed. So if you're slightly under 158, you technically will take your turn after the boss takes their turn, right? So then your buff will last 3 turns. This is really, really good because if you are on the E0 path, which means that you're not going to have, and I always keep hinting to this 2-turn cycle, which I'll talk about. You're on a 3-turn cycle without E1, which means that you're not going to have 100% debuff uptime if you are faster than the boss. Because in this case, as you can see here, right, as you can see here, if you're going before the boss, you land the debuff, boss takes your turn, and all of a sudden your debuff only lasts for 2 turns. So you want yourself to be as fast as possible, but if you're looking to fine-tune it, technically you can run it just under 158, but in the conclusion of the video that they talk about in this one, they say that you know what, still go as fast as you can, because we don't know how the speed will change in the future, and if you're controlling your speed on purpose, later on it might not be good for you once you upgraded your gear to the fullest, right? Because you're kind of locked to that speed, because you definitely do not want to get overlapped. Okay, so always speed boot and just go as fast as you can, reducing the downtime of the buff. Now, what do I mean by the 2-turn cycle? Okay, so this is super important. On my stream, we briefly talked about this. For E1, okay, for E1 Silverwolf, you can do QEA, because Q in this case stands for the ultimate, okay, and then E stands for the skill, and A stands for the basic attack. Now, with a E1 Silverwolf that has the signature cone, if you have the 2 set, which gives the 5%, okay, 5% energy gen, this is the Volwank's Island of Birth. All right, if you have that inner 2 set piece, you're always going to be able to achieve a 2 set cycle, which is really, really good. Which means that you ult, you use a skill, and you use a normal attack, and your ult is back again. This is super important because not only does it allow you to keep your defense up 100% of the time, okay, regardless of the speed check. You can be faster, you can be slower, it doesn't matter. You will always have, with a 2-turn cycle, 100% of the defense downtime. You also come out SP neutral, which means skill point neutral, because the A will generate, the basic attack will generate the skill point that your E will consume. So you come out QEA, skill point neutral. So for E0, all right, for E0, you cannot achieve a 2-turn cycle. The only time that this would happen is if you use QEE, okay, which means you open with the ultimate into using the skill twice, and then you'll be able to use the 2-turn cycle rotation. But that's not good because you're going -2 on the skill point generation. You can still QEA, right, in E0 with the free-to-play cone if you get hit. So that is another exception in which you can do a 2-turn cycle, but for most, okay, most players, it's going to be E0 Silverwolf with the free-to-play event icon giving you QEAA, which is ult into applying the skill into 2 auto attacks into the ult. All right, as if you build it that way, you want speed for sure, and chest piece, like we've said, you want effect hit rate. And we talked about in E1 because of the Eidolon 1 giving an additional, and we can take a look at here. The Eidolon 1 of Silverwolf will give you an additional 7 energy for each debuff. So 5 debuffs is 35 energy on top of, you know, your E, your A, and all the extra regen from the robe, which is the energy regeneration robe. This is allowing you to go QEA. Now, at E2, there's a difference in E2 in which for E2, because the enemy gets their effect resistance reduced, you can now run a crit chest or a defensive chest, anything you want to do, because you no longer need that extra stat from your effect hit rate chest piece, which means E0 speed boots, effect hit rate chest, event free cone. For your E1, you can run speed boots, effect hit rate chest. You don't have to run the event free cone. You can run the signature 5-star cone if you want to be a bit more offensive, but in the inner 2 pieces, you have to run the 5 extra energy gen. And now for E2, the same thing. You have to have obviously the rope regen. You have to have the inner 2 pieces for regen. You can run her signature cone for a bit more offensive stat, and also a crit rate chest if you're looking to have her as sub DPS. Now, the math is kind of all there. The most important part, the most important part is you can see that in the E0 version, QEEA 3-turn cycle, and you don't even have to run the energy regen rope to achieve that, which means you can go defensive or offensive. And now for E1, if you run the QEA 2-turn into ult cycle, then have to run the energy regen rope. Okay, now E1 with the event light cone, then you don't have to run the regen rope. So hopefully this makes sense in terms of how you need to build her with the gear choices. All right, and defense break, I'll just briefly talk about it. Defense break is huge in this game. It does so much more damage. Just to quickly summarize it, basically, if you're running Silverwolf plus Seele, Silverwolf is minus 45% defense with the ult, and then you have a 20% defense penetration with the quantum set from Seele, and now that's minus 65, which is 51% damage increase. Absolutely huge. Okay, and that's why Silverwolf's debuff is really, really good. Lastly, I think this really deserves a separate topic, but in terms of weakness implementation and how future-proof it is, just know that she cannot implement a weakness that the enemy is innately weak to, unless, you know, everyone on your team, the boss is already, or the enemy is already weak to. So this allows you to build multiple teams, and the most common team at the current moment is either you pair her up with Seele and open up Quantum, while having the remaining 2 team members that the enemy is already weak to, so you're for sure going to get the new Quantum weakness and the debuff, or you run Silverwolf into 2 units that are support and have your main carry the weakness that the enemy doesn't have, so that you always apply the new weakness that your carry can abuse. So those are kind of the team right now, and it's a pseudo mono. That's what they call it at the moment, because Quantum we don't have mono, so pseudo mono with for example Jin plus Tingyuan, and then you plus 1 unit that the enemy is already weak to force that new weakness. But I think it'll be a separate topic because I don't want to drag this video for too long. As you can see, we talked about this here, the cone, the free light cone for E0 Silverwolf, super imposition 5, the free event light cone is going to be better for your team. Now looking at the Eidolons, Eidolon 1, Eidolon 2 is going to be different in the sense that 0 and 1 for Eidolon E0, E1 for Silverwolf, just think about her as a support debuffer. She's going to amplify your team's damage by a lot. But if you're looking at Eidolon E2 and E6, because starting at E2, you don't have to run effect hit rate chest, you can run a crit damage chest. So you can really use her as a sub DPS. Okay, that is the breakdown. And again, potential team composition we'll cover in another topic, but in the popular ones, and actually the one I use for my Memory of Chaos full clear is actually I did use this lightning team, which is Silverwolf into Jingyuan, into Tingyan, and then Bailu, basically forcing enemies that is quantum weak but not lightning weak to have this new lightning weak debuff. Now for physical, you can do the exact same thing with Su Shang, Clara, and Natasha, and imaginary we can do later with Welt, Yukon, and Locha. Okay, so this is the quick breakdown. Again, very happy with Silverwolf myself. I use Silverwolf and it really helped me perfect star everything. 30 out of 30, especially in the last 2 stages, 9 and 10, and dealing with some of the pesky early parts of the fights where Jingyuan, my E0 Kong 1 Jingyuan, definitely appreciated the help. So anyhow, it's TimaeuSS here. and let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye now.